Hi, welcome to episode 399 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. And I have an Etsy shop where I sell my handspun yarn and hand knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, November 14th, and wow, the month is flying by. I am excited because next week is the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States, and I am planning to take some time off work, but I'm also feeling the crunch because I'm trying to get everything done this week for next week. And of course, next week is also a big shopping week in the United States. Right after Thanksgiving Thursday, we have Black Friday, for a lot of people, is a big shopping holiday. Then there is Small Business Saturday, built to kind of honor the small businesses. And then there is Cyber Monday. And I have clients who are doing promotions for one or all three. And I'm trying to shepherd them through the gates so I can get everything scheduled before I leave. So it has been a busy Monday at work, and I expect the rest of the week will be the same. So how are you? I hope you had a good weekend. I had lots of crafty time this weekend. I did do a little bit of work, but I also got in a lot of work on my sweater for Nanny Swaymo and also on the wrap that I am in the middle of. So I have lots and lots to show you today, and I'm feeling the crafty mojo. It is cold here. It has been in the 20s and 30s for the last couple days. So I am all bundled up. I'm not wearing my woolies today. I'm wearing my one of my favorite sweatshirts, but I do have on wool socks. And I am thinking about knitting all the wool socks. Something about this time of year when my feet get cold, it makes me want to spin and knit more handspun socks. And so I will actually be sharing a spin with you that will probably go to the shop so that you could knit your own handspun socks if you'd like to. So to start today, I am drinking coffee. I know every time I drink coffee, I think my husband jokes that I'm going to lose subscribers. My husband is on a huge coffee kick, and so he has bought several bags of coffee, and the kitchen always smells like coffee, which is delicious. I kind of alternate between coffee and tea. I will say that coffee is really hard on my stomach, so I have trouble. I can't drink it first thing in the morning. And I don't drink it last thing at night because, of course, it has lots of caffeine, and I usually stick with herbal tea then. But I have been drinking more than my fair share of coffee. Today, I am drinking in my Bean Mug, which is a lovely coffee shop just a few towns over from us. My husband bikes over there in the morning to get a cup of coffee and a fudge brownie, which are really good, and I do not partake of very often. But they are a lovely little coffee shop, and I am drinking the Roastery's French Caramel Cream. The Roastery is a Kansas City coffee, so I'm kind of bringing it local right now, and that is what I am drinking this afternoon, and will hopefully get me through a few more hours of work. You can see I've got the lights on today. I forget that I need to record earlier in the day. It is about a little after 3 o'clock here in just outside of Kansas City, so in the Midwestern United States. It has been a gray and dreary day kind of all day, but especially now we're getting towards the sun going down at 4:30 or 5 o'clock. So I am going to have to remember to record earlier in the day so that I can capture the light. So let's jump into the knits, what I am working on. So the first thing that I have been working on for the last several weeks, and I'm hoping that I'm getting closer and closer to finished, although I don't think I will be finished by the next time we meet, is I am knitting something called the Snow Mantra Shawl by Svetlana Gordon. And this is a shawl that is, in the pattern it's knit with 2 colors, and I'm actually knitting it with 3 colors as a sample for Zen Yarn Garden. I am using their Serenity Silk Plus base, which is kind of a heavy lace weight, very light fingering weight. It is 500 yards to 100 grams skein. I have been using it in a natural colorway and then kind of a bubblegum pink, and I am actually into the final section, which only uses the pink, no more white, or natural. And then I am also using a Luxe Blank, which is still the same base, but in a slightly different put up. It is 150 grams and 750 yards, so basically time and a half. And I have used more than half the blank. This is what I have remaining. As I've shown you, the blanks are really long, flat pieces of knitting. They are usually knit on a knitting machine or come already knit up, but they are created on a knitting machine. And then you can hand paint the blanks, and then Zen Yarn Garden sells them as a blank, or they unwind them or they unravel them and wind them up into a cake. I am working straight from the blank, which is fine. It does give me slightly ramen looking yarn, but it is fine when you're actually knitting with it, and when I wash it and block it, it will come out. So this is what I have left of the blank, and to be honest, my continuing progress on this project will depend all on how far I can get with what I have left, because when I run out of this one, I am done knitting regardless of if the project is done or not. The project itself is very repetitive. It's lots of repetitive sections to create kind of a unique look, but I will be able to stop a little bit sooner. There's nothing that says I can't. It just means the shawl will be a little bit smaller, and I think once I block it, the shawl will be plenty large, so I'm not really concerned about that. So we will just see how much longer I can go in this. My guess is 3 to 4 sections. I have 5 sections left, so we'll have to see if I make it, but we shall see. Obviously the shawl is increasing quite a bit. I am up to almost 575 stitches across right now, so that is why it is using up so much yarn. So let's show you what I've got. I do need to take a break and weave in some ends, so if you see them flying around, there are lots and lots of ends to be woven in. I do have to break the yarn quite a bit in this project, either because I'm changing background colors or because the way this shawl is written, sometimes you finish on one side but start again on the other side, so you have to break it and start again. So this is what I have so far, and actually it is not on the needles today because I just finished the last I-cord section, so I can actually show you fairly easily. So this is what it looks like, and I'll give you a little bit closer look. The shawl has, it creates these wavy shape patterns that remind you a little bit of feather and fan, but they are more extreme, and it creates those with more extreme decreasing and increasing. So you can see spots where I have lots and lots of increases, and then there are also sections where I have decreases. There is also a short row section that you can see that intersperses the colors, and then I have been switching background colors for different sections of the shawl, and you can see that while the first section, because it was such small repeats, went through a long time on the green gradient, you can also see that I have gotten to the more interesting kind of fall and autumn colored gradient, and I have also gotten to the section where it picks up some of the pinks. Pink is now my background color until the end, and I am just continuing on, and as I said, when I go back to pick up stitches off of this I-cord, I have approximately 575 to pick up, a little bit less than that, but I don't want to give away the pattern. So yeah, that is where I'm at. It is a decently large shawl even without blocking, and I'm sure it's going to expand with blocking, so that is where I am at on this project. I am to the point where it is taking me at least a night to do half a section, if not more, and you do the math. I have 5 to 6 sections left, depending on, or I have up to 5 sections left depending on how far I get, and so that would be a minimum of 10 nights and possibly more, because I'm still increasing stitches at quite a clip, and will be right up until the end. However, because the shawl is done in sections like this, I could really stop anywhere that I finish with an I-cord edging. So it basically has convenient spots for me to stop sooner if I run out of yarn, because when I run out of the gradient, I don't want to knit the shawl with just like the white and the pink. That would be odd. So I'm just going to finish on the gradient and get as far as I can. So that is what I'm doing right now. Again, this is the Snow Mantra shawl by Svetlana Gordon. It is lovely. The pattern is very clear and very well written. This is somewhat fiddly, and it is, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit of a slog, especially in these big rows where they take forever to get through the rows, but the finished object is going to be absolutely stunning, and I really do enjoy it. So this will be a kit and likely a knit along in the new year from Zen Yarn Garden. So next up on my needles is sort of my little bit of anytime project, and I have not been making a ton of time for it. You will notice that between the progress I made on this one and the progress I made on my next project, that I have not spent a lot of time on it, but I am still working on a pair of socks for my nephew for the holidays. I finished the first sock. So this sock has taken me like 3 weeks to do because I have not been working on it. I haven't even started the second sock. That's the goal for this week, and it has to be finished next week because next week on Friday they are being given to him. So I do have some work to do. I have to get that one done this week, and hopefully by Monday I will have that to show you. If not, that is what I will be spending a chunk of my weekend on. This is Farmer's Daughter Fibers Squish Sock, and I cannot remember what the name of the colorway is, and I do not think I have the no, I don't have the label in here. I will have to find that. But it is just kind of a fun, kind of foresty green. It's got a little bit of lighter greens in it, but it's also got kind of these blues of firs, and it really reminds me of a forest, kind of a winter forest with snow. So that's exciting. I do have one more to do. My nephew is 6, so what I have done is just a basic 2x2 rib at the top, slip stitch heel flap and gusset, and then a rounded toe. And I just I get the kids to trace their feet on pieces of printer paper and send them to me each year so that I can measure approximately how long I need to knit, and then I kind of go up by 2 or 4 stitches a year, depending on how last year's fit. So that is kind of how I keep up with them. And so this is I only need one more sock and then I'm done with all the socks for this year. So that is a focus for this week that will take me away from the other two a little bit. So the next thing that I have to show you is the project that has been getting all of my love, not all of my time, but all of my love, and that is my sweater project for Nanny Swaymo. I will not talk about what Nanny Swaymo is. You can watch any of the last 3 or 4 podcasts to get to that, but I am attempting to knit my sweater in November. Last week, the week before, I talked all about my issues with the sweater pattern and what I had decided on, and actually one of my lovely viewers gave me a great tip. I'm not actually using it this time, but she is right, I could. I talked a lot about how I wanted to avoid the jog in the stripes, and so I was knitting everything flat and seaming it up, and one of the things she suggested was that I could knit it in the round. And at the bottom or wherever, at the side seam or under the arm, I could do a row of purl stitches, sort of as a faux seam. And because one row of purl stitches in between stockinette will tend to kind of recess into the stockinette, you wouldn't see that the color was changing on that purl stitch, and so you would still be able to knit in the round, but you wouldn't actually see the jog. I thought about using that for the sleeves and then ultimately decided not to because I am constructing this sweater a little bit of all over. So I am trying to get my stripes to line up the way that I want them to line up. I am trying to end on a certain color for all of the ribbing detailing, and I am also trying to use as much yarn as I can and make the sweater possibly a little longer if I can. So basically I'm knitting this sweater in a variety of sections and kind of picking up and starting and putting it on hold at different times, and so I decided just to continue knitting flat and we'll see where it gets me. So what I have to show you this week is decidedly more and more sweater looking, although it's still a bit of a dickie. So let's get into that. So this is where I am at for now. I have knit to approximately where I want to be on the front. I would potentially add more stripes to the front if I have extra yarn, but I don't know if I have extra yarn. So I have knit enough stripes that I finish on the speckled colorway, which is called Sugar Maple, so that I can go ahead and use this color for the ribbing detail at the bottom. It makes this sweater, I believe, 1 stripe longer than the pattern calls for, and I am getting approximately 2.5 inches per stripe, so that makes this 2.5 inches longer, which is fine with me because the sweater is very cropped, and so I think I will probably like it just a little bit longer, and I may actually be done. I'm just gonna have to wait and see what happens. So when I finished the front and got to the point that I wanted to be at, I went ahead and put it on hold. This is my TKB tubing, which is the Knitting Bakery, I think. It is just silicone tubing, and I am using the long one in the front of my sweater just to keep it on hold. The nice thing about these tubes is you can slide the end of the tube over the tip of your needle, and then you can very easily slide your stitches across. So it just helps with putting your stitches on hold and then putting them back on the needle. And the other thing is, because I have so much extra tubing, this also is a great way to try garments on if you want to take them off the needle and try them on without worrying about dropping stitches. So I am finished with the front, at which point I went on and did the neck ribbing. Now, if you remember, I did actually change the neck ribbing or the neck shaping on this. This was intended to be a deep V, and I decided I didn't want the V. So I worked until I sort of wanted the end of the neck, and I wanted to pick up right when this sugar maple stripe started so that I would be able to kind of contrast it to I didn't want to make it happen halfway down or at the next stripe. So I went ahead and rather than working to the V where you're just increasing to the point that you have enough stitches, I increased to the point that I was done, and then I just cast on the number of stitches I needed to give myself the correct number for the front of the sweater. So again, that was a modification that I made on my own, not how the sweater is written. I should say I am making all of these changes because I am very persnickety about how I want to knit my sweater. The pattern is lovely and worth knitting as written. I just, because of the colors that I chose and because of some of the other things that I chose, I decided to work it this way. This is a little bit out of order. This would probably make you crazy. That's fine. I'm a little crazy to be doing it this way, but I just wanted to sort of share that. So then I moved on to do the neck. Finally, I decided to start one of my sleeves, and I actually got most of the way done with the sleeve. For the sleeve, I needed to calculate how long I wanted my sleeve to be, and then I needed to calculate how many stripes that would be and where I should start and end so that, again, I can end on having this color be the ribbing. So I have one more stripe to do. And then I believe these sleeves are the length that I want them to be minus the ribbing. So then I will stop on this sleeve and I will go ahead and start on the other sleeve. And then once I think I have the sleeves exactly where I want them, I will go back and finish the back, because right now, as I said, it's still a little bit of a dickie. I left off fairly early on in the stripes on the back, so I have several more to add to make it the length of the front. So I will finish this sleeve, and then I will work on this sleeve, and then I will lengthen the back. At that point, I will stop and see where I am in yarn. I suspect at that point I will only have enough of the pink, which is called Sexy Times. I'll only have enough of the dark pink to basically do the two cuffs and the hem ribbing. And if that is the case, then I will go ahead and seam up the way I plan to do this is to seam up my T seams. So I will just do, my sweater will look like a T, and I will just need to do the seam under this arm and then down the side of the sweater. And then I will cast on in the round and do my my 2x2 ribbing for the cuff, and then my 2x2 ribbing for the hem, and then my 2x2 ribbing for the other cuff. If I have enough, and that's a pretty big if because I'm not really sure that I'm going to, I might consider lengthening the sweater by another 2 stripes, which would actually be by another 5 inches. So I suspect I will not do that, but that is sort of where I'm at in terms of how to finish this sweater. This sweater is working up really quickly. I am knitting a DK weight on size 6 needles. I am using size 4 for the ribbing edges, and I believe that is one size smaller on both counts than the pattern calls for. I believe it calls for 7s and 5s, but I often drop a needle size or 2 when I'm knitting. And I am using 2 colors from Canard String, and they are absolutely lovely. It is her DK base, which is an MCN, 75 superwash merino, 20 nylon. Oh, this is not right. Hang on. 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, 230 yards to 100 grams. And my colors are Sexy Times and Sugar Magnolia. So this is Canard String. So I am still doing quite well on yarn. I expect that I will have some of the speckled color left over, possibly even enough for a hat. Don't know if I will make a matching hat. Might make a matching hat in my leftovers. But I am very excited for this. It is super soft and super cozy. And I think I am absolutely going to live in this sweater. And this is just the knitting that I want to be doing all hours of the day. It is the carrot with which I make myself work on some of my other projects. And this is the primary project I'm going to take with me when we go to Chicago next week for Thanksgiving, because over the Thanksgiving weekend, I'm just going to take a mini break and I'm only going to knit on what I want to knit on. So, and that's going to be the sweater. And my hope is that I will finish the sweater sometime next week or the following weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, so that I can finish in the month of November and have a brand new sweater to wear. So, I don't think I said the pattern is the Northwoods V-neck by Jessie Made Designs. It is a lovely and well-written pattern, and you should not take the fact that I am blowing it up and knitting it the way I want to knit it for anything. It was written to make use of several different colors, and I just happened to turn it into 2 colors, and so I am planning a little bit more in terms of which colors I want to end on and how to make the darker color all of the kind of edging to tie the sweater together. So if you wanted to do it, if you had single skeins of DK and wanted to do it more scrappy and happy, you could easily do that. And the pattern is well written, and I just have blown it up because, you know, as my knitting group jokes, I'm constitutionally incapable of knitting a pattern as written unless I'm doing it for a sample, in which case then I stick to it. So yeah, so that's what I've got going on, and I'm very excited about that. So quick sip of coffee, and then we'll get to the spins, and then I'll chat about one more thing, and then we'll move on. So I don't have a lot of spinning news for you today. I am currently working on a spin from some long hoarded fiber. This is Superwash Merino, and it was dyed by 2if by hand, and it is in the colorway Mer People, which is primarily pinks and reds, but it's also got some blues, some oranges, some yellows, and I just have to say I miss them so much. I miss their dyeing sense, but also this fiber prep is absolutely impeccable. It's spinning super thin, which is why it's taking me a while to spin, but it is going to be one heck of a gorgeous skein of fiber. Or skein of yarn when I am done with the fiber. I'm almost done with the first half. This is the second half of the fiber that I will likely start Wednesday evening when I spin at knit night. And this one will be finished. I don't think it will be in the shop before Thanksgiving. And I will note that I'm going to close my shop for the bulk of Thanksgiving week because I will not be home to ship, so I cannot make the shipping deadlines. But this will likely go up in the shop right after Thanksgiving. And I might get a couple more spins cranked out before the end of the year. I have one that I would like to do for myself. I have a braid of fiber that I bought earlier this year that is Christmas colored, and so I am going to spin it up for myself and use it for my Little Bobbins Knits Christmas Eve cast on. Every year on Christmas Eve I cast on a pair of socks, sometimes with handspun, sometimes with commercial yarn, and I make myself a pair of lovely socks to wear for the rest of the year or on Christmas. And I have bought a skein. It's golds and reds and greens and kind of a navy blue, and it very much, while it has nothing to do with the holidays, it very much reminded me of kind of classic traditional Christmas colors. So I am going to turn those into my yarn for my socks this year. I also brought over another braid. I am positive I will not start this before I leave for Thanksgiving, but this will be the first braid I do when I come back home. This was this year's October selection for the Hello Yarn Fiber Club. No, I think it was September. Hang on. It was September, so you should have received it by now, so hopefully I'm not spoiling anyone. This one is on Corriedale, which is great for socks, and I think I'm actually going to spin this one up and pop it in the shop because normally I hoard my Corriedale braids and spin them into sock yarn for myself, but I have 3 or 4 skeins of sock yarn that I have not turned into socks yet, and so I feel like I should share this one with the world. The color right here is Thorn Apple, and this is on Corriedale. Corriedale is my favorite for socks because it is While it is soft, it is a little bit crisper and a little bit sturdier, and I feel like Corriedale socks wear really, really well. But I also am kind of special about, I'm fairly sensitive to a lot of different kinds of wools, and I cannot wear the more rustic kind of outerwear wools on my feet because my ankles get super, super itchy. They're super sensitive. Corriedale kind of straddles in between like sturdy, kind of the coarser wools. It's not coarse. It's a little bit crisper, and I feel like it wears a little bit better in hard wearing items like socks that you're going to be wearing into shoes and rubbing up against things. So it is my favorite blend for socks. So my plan is to spin this one, which is called Thornapple, and put that up in the shop. So if you have ever wanted to knit a pair of handspun socks, keep an eye out for this one, and you can knit yourself some socks. I will tell you, I don't know precisely how I'm going to spin this, but however I spin it, it is likely that the socks will be fraternal. I have a lot of trouble with keeping things matching, and the best way to match is to chain ply, and of course then I get less yardage, and I'm not even super good at that. So they will not be matchy-matchy socks, they will be fraternal, but they will all be from the same braid, so they will definitely look like they belong together. So that is next on my wheel. So, a final note, as I was sitting here thinking about things today, this is episode 399, which means next week, next Monday, and I will be here on Monday because we won't be leaving until after that. Next Monday, November 18th, is 400 episodes of The Corner of Knit and Tea. When I started this podcast approximately, well, a little bit more than 8 years ago, it was 8 years ago in August, I had no idea that I would get to this many episodes, and I don't really have any intention of stopping. We don't have a huge audience, but I feel like it is small but mighty, and there are many of you that I hear from regularly, and I really enjoy sharing my knitting and spinning progress with you. I am struggling to come up with some way to commemorate it. I could obviously do a giveaway. I have done handspun in my shop before. I could do a gift card that you could use for the holidays. I could give away some tea along with some handspun, but I'm sort of at a loss as to how to properly commemorate 400 episodes and to be able to celebrate with you. So if you have any ideas, please feel free to leave a comment on this video on YouTube or reach out to me on social media and let me know what you think. You know, you're also welcome to, well, I shouldn't say you're welcome to. I always appreciate feedback on what kinds of things you like that I do on the podcast and you would like to see more of, or if there's something that I don't do that you would like me to do. You know, I'm kind of narrating my process as I'm going through my crafting, but I would be happy to delve into other topics on which I have knowledge if there's something you're interested in. So I will wish you, as I always do, a wonderful week ahead. I hope that your crafty mojo is at an all-time high, that you're feeling creative and enjoying all the crafts that you're doing. And I will say, as I always do, until I see you next time, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next week. Bye.